When you think about children's social skills, what do you think of? Being able to behave well so as not to bother other people, not making noise or creating a fuss in the supermarket, sharing toys at preschool? Yeah, of course. All these things are important. I've heard so many parents and teachers ask children to use your words instead of hitting or throwing a tantrum. So, how can you teach your toddler to communicate his or her needs by using words? Well, it starts by communicating with your baby. I'm Tara Tuck, and I help parents, preschool teachers, and all of you who care for young children to learn everything you need to know about speech and language, the most important part of child development. In this video, I'm going to tell you how your child's social skills develop from the kinds of conversations babies have with parents and caregivers to the ability to have actual conversations as toddlers. Then in the next video, I'll continue with how your toddler can progress into a preschooler who can learn how to say the right thing at the right time and be ready to make friends and take part in school discussions. I'm a speech and language pathologist and the author of The Joy of Language, the Guide to Language and Learning for Parents and Caregivers. I've given you that link below. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos like this and visit my website. As I explained in my last video, there are so many ways you can encourage your preschooler to speak in grammatically correct sentences. And since this, along with having a good vocabulary, is so important for the understanding of what teachers are going to be teaching him, he'll be all set to begin to read, to do math, to learn any other subject, as well as to communicate by speaking and writing. So, we've talked about the sounds, the words, the sentences of language, but there's also a very important part that we have to think about, and that's how to get along with others socially, how to have conversations, and how to say the right things. This is what we call the pragmatics of language. The word pragmatic means dealing with specific problems in a sensible and realistic way. We use our language for specific purposes or to solve specific problems, like to ask someone for something or to compliment someone, to get someone's attention, to express anger, to think about the world. These are examples of pragmatic aspects of your speech and language, and we're successful when we communicate what we intend to communicate, when the listener really gets our message. All cultures have pragmatic rules, and most of the rules are what we call social skills. We generally learn these rules through observation and practice, but don't be surprised if your child needs a little extra help with these social skills. Many children do. And since you are your child's pragmatic role model, here's what you need to know. Social communication is the first language your baby will learn because it's the first language she'll need. She'll be communicating with you long before she begins to use words. Naturally, your baby has wants and needs. So how will she get her needs met? Well, first, of course, she'll be using nonverbal communication. And then later, she'll express her needs with words and sentences and conversations, and even in writing. So think about what we need to know about appropriate social communication. Do we express ourselves with tact? Do we take turns in conversations? Do we give the listener just the right amount of details without going on and on and on? Do we clarify what we're trying to say for the listener? Do we talk to ourselves when trying to solve a problem? That's very appropriate and helpful. But few of us think about all the ways to be appropriate in social situations. It just comes naturally for most of us. We know how to act, we know what to say, what not to say, in all types of settings. We all use language in a variety of ways every day. So let's think about some of the things we do easily with language. These are things I bet you haven't really thought about. We take turns during a conversation. We use appropriate eye contact when speaking with someone. We remain on topic until we transition to a new topic. We ask questions of a conversational partner for clarification. We respond to a speaker's questions. We make requests of people. We speak loudly enough to be heard, but not too loudly. Did you ever think about how you learned to do that? We use appropriate formality or informality for the situation. We give enough, but not too much information during a conversation. We stand close, but not too close to a conversation partner. We take cues from a conversation partner, nonverbal cues that say she's bored, she's confused, getting angry, all of that. We speak tactfully so as not to make others feel uncomfortable. We use prosody, the emphasis of our words, and usually facial expressions to indicate sarcasm. We contribute to group discussions appropriately. And this is just the beginning. There are many more ways we use language in a social way. Have you ever really thought about all the skills you have for maintaining social communication? Just think about this as your child is learning to interact appropriately through language. He has so much to learn. Now think about what aspects of communication might be affected by your ability to interpret visual information. How about facial expressions and body language? Could we communicate as effectively if we didn't understand what others meant by different facial expressions and gestures? So much of what we say depends on how we say it, our intonation, the volume, the emphasis we put on certain syllables, facial expressions, hand gestures, even the way we sit or stand. Let's think about how babies begin to learn social communication skills. Actually, baby's first cry is the beginning of this connection to others through vocal communication. Did you react to your newborn's cry? Of course you did. And you probably responded with some vocalizations of your own, something like, ooh. Newborn babies don't cry in order to communicate something, although they're probably crying because of some discomfort. But very soon they learn that parents respond to their cries, and then a meaningful connection begins. So please don't believe the experts, often family members, who suggest that you let the baby cry it out rather than picking him up or going to comfort the baby when he cries. Babies don't cry to make your life unbearable. They cry because they're in distress and they need to be attended to. When this is your baby's only way of communicating, it's important for him to be able to trust that you're listening. Your attention won't spoil him or increase his crying. In fact, babies whose caregivers respond to their needs more often actually decrease crying at about 8 or 9 months. It may be that these babies feel that communicating their needs is effective, and they're more likely to be comforted by that feeling. They're also quicker to learn alternate means of communication, like eye gaze, pointing, making other sounds, and eventually using words. Your baby will be a couple of months old, though, before he or she will be able to practice another important aspect of communication, which is eye contact. The vision of a newborn is really poor. In fact, even the vision of a 1-year-old is not totally clear, but making silly faces and holding a teddy bear in different positions where the baby can find it and hanging mobiles, over her crib, all prepare baby for eye contact. So a 2-month-old may not see clearly, but she can recognize faces of primary caregivers. So provide your baby with visual stimulation. The visual cortex, which is actually in the back of the brain, as other parts of the brain, needs interaction with the environment for proper development. That doesn't mean watching TV or other types of screens. It means interacting with 3-dimensional figures around the baby, people and objects. Then, as your baby develops eye contact, she will also become fascinated by facial expressions. This is such an integral part of the way we communicate feelings. When you hold the baby so she can see your face, or when you lean over her crib and smile, she's studying one of the most important aspects of human communication. And it's so exciting to see that your baby is captivated by your face, your voice, even your walk. She's now watching and listening to everything you do and say. She's learning quickly to use all forms of communication with you, her greatest teacher. So let's look at some ways you can encourage your baby and then your toddler to learn real social communication. Take crying seriously and soothe your baby. She's communicating a need. She's not just trying to annoy you. Also, try to figure out what your baby's various sounds mean. What kind of sound does he make when he's hungry, when he needs his diaper changed, when he's tired, when he has a pain somewhere, when he's having fun? Use facial expressions to make your baby laugh and tune into your body language. Remember that you're her role model for this. When talking to your infant, pause long enough for him to babble a response to you. Teach early conversational skills. Cuddle up during story time to make reading stories a comforting, enjoyable experience of listening attentively to a speaker. Attending and listening should be a comforting experience for your child. Also, use soothing gestures when he's upset. This will show him how to do the same with others. Show your toddler you're listening. Nod your head. Use good eye contact. Make comments. Ask questions. We all want to be heard and to know that we're important. Don't overreact to exaggerated body language. He's most likely just practicing this form of communication, but he'll soon learn what's appropriate and how to control his body. Always respond positively to cuddles. This will encourage interaction and engagement. You always want your baby or toddler to feel connected to you in a good way. Show pleasure and enthusiasm when your baby's trying to communicate with you. You want real communication to be a rewarding experience. Verbalize her needs for her to show her that she's already communicating, like, "I know it's really hard to reach your teddy, isn't it?" Mirror your toddler's body language as a form of empathy, that you received her message and that you understand how she feels. Observe your child's facial expressions and body language so you can become a great interpreter of his moods and needs. This is especially important before he can really express himself in words. Play with a toy telephone or a cell phone, having conversations with your toddler. It's great practice for the real thing, which will happen before you know it. Also, maintain rules though, and don't give in to tantrums. Instead, use gestures for emphasis when saying no, and show that there are better ways of communicating frustration. Teach him how to use words for that. Now, please write to me in the comments below. Ask me questions, give me suggestions. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website, thejoyoflanguage.com. And tell your friends, relatives, preschool teachers, babysitters about my book and, of course, about my videos. And I'll see you in the next one.